Hi, my friend, Caleb Johnson here, and I have a huge question to ask you, real estate investors. How would you rate your level of personal discipline on a scale of 1 to 10? If your answer is anything less than a 10, I've got something neat for you. And let me tell you, discipline means pushing yourself beyond your comfort zone and doing things that are difficult and sometimes boring. Achieving massive success requires you to do those difficult things. Building your levels of personal discipline is not easy, but it does pay off. In fact, you can't achieve anything significant without discipline. Now, I just released a program for investors where I walk with you as an accountability coach to aid you stay on track so you can push yourself to do the hard things that greatness is going to require of you. Starting is easy. Go to redccapitalgroup.com and click accountability coaching at the top right of the screen. So let's get to work, and now to the interview. Hello everyone, my name is Caleb Johnson, host of From Trial to Triumph. This is the show where I speak with people who have gone through tremendous trials and have come out triumphant. And even if you don't have the same story as our guest does today, that's okay, because you can still learn from their learning lessons and apply them to your life. And I'll do my best to bring those lessons into full view. So with that, our guest today is Patrick Legenzoff. Patrick was born in Colorado and moved to Arizona at a young age. He has been coined the sober investor and has created an intake center called Helping Hands Recovery, which offers treatment and counseling. Patrick has made great strides in the real estate and investment industries, making sure to remember his purpose along the way. So Patrick, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here to share my story with everybody and hopefully give some hope to those individuals that are out there that thinks that they're unable to because of their past.
Awesome. Well, I know you can, and just listening to your story, it's really been motivating to me. So if we can just kick things off, can you go ahead and share that story with our listeners?
All right. Kind of like you said, I was born in Colorado. I moved here when I was a baby to Arizona. I grew up in Maryville, which is not the best of area in Arizona. My mom and dad split up when I was a baby. That's why we moved to Arizona. I didn't know it at the time, but my mom, she was an addict. She was addicted to drugs. We lived with my grandmother. I had everything that I wanted as a child and grew up playing basketball. Basketball was my first love. But at a very young age, all my best friends were like 3 years older than me, and then they had older brothers. So I was introduced to a lot of things at a very young age because of the older influence around me. I started smoking marijuana at the age of like 9 or 10. One day my mom was sick. She was at the hospital, and I know that she was dabbling in her own things. And one day I went into her room, found a substance, didn't know what it was, brought it to my friends, and they ended up doing this substance. I said, heck no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. The substance ended up being meth and peer pressure. I ended up doing it, and that's where my drug use really took off at a very young age, at the age of 11, starting hard drugs at that time. There's no way for me to really make money. You can't get a job. You can't do normal things to get money, so I turned to the Maryville neighborhood and turned to some not so good things to be able to get money to provide for my habit. Every year from the age 12 all the way to 18, I went to juvenile detention every summer. I'd still go to school, was still good in school, but every summer is when the trouble really happened, and I'd go to juvenile detention every summer. I was on probation from the age of 12 to 18, in and out of juvie. Still doing the school thing, still playing basketball. At first it was fun, doing it with friends, doing it occasion in the party scene. So it was fun in the beginning. There was a lot of alcohol drinking in that time frame. My mom was the type of mom, she didn't want me to go elsewhere and to get into trouble. She'd rather me be at home and drink. So my mom was buying the alcohol for me and my friends, and so we could do it at under her supervision in that house. So there was a lot of drinking, a lot of drug use. I was on intensive probation. My mom, she was a mailman. She ended up being a mailman, and the job was too hard for her, so she started taking mail home, and she was burning mail in the backyard type of thing. And one morning, I woke up with 4 guns pointed to me. The Postal Service has their own police, and they raided our house. They grabbed her. They raided our house. I had guns pointed to my head. I got taken out of the house in handcuffs, and the first person I see is my intensive probation officer. And I lip synced to her. I was like, "What did I do?" And she said, "It's not you. It's not you." So my mom got into trouble. They let her go that day, but a few months later, she ended up going to prison, federal prison for 2 years. And that's when my drug use really took off. I really had no supervision. I could do whatever I wanted to. And I pretty much turned my grandmother's house into a drug house where I was selling drugs, and a lot of stolen goods were coming in and all of this crazy stuff. And my grandma wasn't doing very good health-wise. She ended up passing away about 4 months later. So then I had the whole house to myself, and I have no mom, I have no grandma, and things really got crazy then because there was really no holding back on those things. My uncle, me selling drugs in that neighborhood, there's a lot of gang activity, and I was competing with a lot of gangs that I shouldn't have been. And my uncle ended up selling that house. I was dating a girl who was related to a leader of this gang that I was kind of competing with. And my uncle's pretty much said, "You have to find somewhere else to go," and he kicked me out of that house. So now I'm living on the street. I am homeless at this time, and I'm still doing a lot of drugs, selling, trying to do anything I could do to get something to eat. Sleeping in backyards, sleeping in houses for sales, sleeping in abandoned houses. One day I was at the girl who I was dating, I was in her aunt's backyard on a couch sleeping, and I woke up with a gun to my head, and he said, "If you weren't at my family's house right now, you'd be dead." And so I made a phone call. I made a phone call to my dad who lived in Tennessee, and I told him the situation. He said, "Come out here." And my dad, he has a past, and he knows what I was doing and what I was involved in. And he bought me an airplane ticket out to Tennessee, and he pretty much told me that you have 3 weeks to get a job, get the hell out of here. I have my own life and my own things to do. Of course, he helped me get a job, and he helped me get an apartment. And the first job that I got out there, I was a bar back at a bar, and the bartender, I was like, "Hey, I'm here, let's do this." And his first words were like, "Here's a shot, and there's a line for you on the back of the toilet." And so it just started the same cycle there in Tennessee as well. So drinking heavily, partying heavily, and it was fun again because I was no longer doing meth, but I switched from meth to coke. And it was fun again. There was a lot of partying, singing, dancing, raves. It was a good time there for a while. And then addiction is a progressive disease. So it starts off fun, but then it gradually just gets worse and worse and worse. And that's what happened in Tennessee. Started dating a girl, and it just got worse. And I lost the bar job. I ended up going to another job. I was stealing from that job to pay for my drug habit. And they ended up catching me. I was on unemployment, and getting paid for doing nothing was amazing. So I didn't get a job. I just got paid unemployment. And then I messed around with some of the wrong people out there. At this time, my mom, she was calling me saying she was sober, living at a sober living, that she was now sober and living an amazing life. And I'm like, what the heck is that? I called her, and she flew me back out here to Arizona. She She said you can't, because she was living with another sober person. She said you can't drink, you can't do drugs, you can't do any of that. And I said, okay. And the first night I was drinking, just because I'm addictive personality, and I need something to cover up everything that I was going through. I ended up moving with my uncle because I couldn't live there. And then I called some old friends and got right back into the rat race of drugs, back into meth, back into all of these crazy things. And I did that for a year. I met some people. They would hand me. My mom now worked at this sober living. It was one of the largest sober livings in Phoenix at the time. It had like 42 beds. And she gave me a rundown of the numbers of how much they were getting per week, how much overhead was, and then that got my head turning like, oh my God, this is pretty cool. And I thought it was really funny going to the place where she worked around a lot of sober people all fucked up. So people knew I was fucked up, and they would hand me numbers saying like, when you're ready, here's my number. Like, if you ever need anything, here's a number. I got to the point where I was homeless again, and being out on the streets, everybody's robbing everybody, trying to get over on everybody, and it's just a messed up cycle. I got to the point where I didn't want to live that way anymore, and one of those people that gave me their phone number, I called them. They came and picked me up right away, and they took me to a detox. I said, heck no, I'm not going to do this. This place is scary. I blacked out from drinking, and I woke up in an unknown house, which was the lady who picked me up. So I detoxed on my mom's couch. I got into a program. I got into a 30-day rehab. And that's what opened up my mind to a new way of life. They started speaking about this God thing, this AA thing, and taking suggestions, and I started doing that. I did relapse one more time, and it wasn't the same. I relapsed for a week and got back in it, and now I've been sober for 9 years. Wow. I did meet my wife in the rehab, which everybody suggested against, but in April it would be 10 years together.
Wow. Congratulations, that's cool. It's like a 0.0001% chance that if you be in rehab that you're both going to stay sober and both do well, and we are doing really well. So from there, my first year of sobriety, I started a vaping company. I spent a lot of effort. I have an addictive personality, and I have idle hands, and I would constantly want to build something, do something, and do better. And the first year I did a vaping company. It did 6 figures. It did really well. And I was working a lot of jobs. I was catering, I was bartending, I was serving, I was doing the vaping company, and doing really well. I did that for about 5 years. And it got to a point where I was putting money before everything. So I'm addicted to money. I'm addicted to money, and I come from nothing. And if I'm not going to be able to take care of myself and my family, who is, type of thing. In 2019, I stepped away from AA. Me and my wife, we were still sober, but I stepped away from AA. In 2019, I just felt like I was missing something. Even though my life was good, we got the car, we had the kid, we got the house, we were doing really well. I just felt like I was missing something. And what they teach you in AA is if you get this thing, that you have to freely give it back to somebody else. And I wasn't doing that, and I felt like I was missing something. So in 2019, I made a vow to dive deep into AA and to only have one job and spend more time with my family. So it was God, then AA, then my family, then my friends, and then work. And in 2019, between my wife and I, it was our worst year financially. Between the both of us, we made $30,000 that year. But it was my best year with my family. I was actually able to go to soccer games, recitals, get to see my kids grow up, have fun with them, get into AA, help other guys.
And it was an amazing year with my family. And I was like, man, this is amazing. Even though we only made $30,000, we made do. We did end up going on food stamps, state-funded foods for food stamps, state-funded insurance that year. Again, I always had an interest in real estate and sober livings. So the whole reason I wanted to get my real estate license was because I didn't want to have to depend on anybody to let me know what a good deal is, what a good area is, on how to find a deal, and to be able to purchase a house without a realtor was the goal there. So in 2019, I had a lot of extra time, so I started studying for the real estate license. I think my wife allowed me to, we didn't have much money, but I spent the $700 or $800 it took to go to the Arizona business of real estate. And before that point, I had looked up online. I forgot to mention this. I am a high school dropout. And in that whole time, I collected 3 felonies. So when I went to go get my real estate license, I looked up online, can a felon get his real estate license in Arizona? And everything that I read said, yeah, you might be able to, depending on which kind of felony and all these things. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go do this. So I spent the money, did the 90 hours, did all the schooling, passed all the tests. And I looked up online one more time. Can a felon get his real estate license in Arizona? Then all the articles I see is probably not. And I'm like, oh, wow. Where did those other articles go? Like, where did they go? So I started the venture on getting my record set aside. In the state of Arizona, you can't get your record expunged. Actually, that's changing this year. But back then, you can only get your record set aside. So I petitioned the courts to get my record set aside. While that is happening, I'm still bartending. I'm still catering like mansion parties and big corporate events. And I'm waiting for my record to get set aside. One day I'm on my way to a mansion to bartend. It's like a $4 million mansion. I think I'm going to make some good money. My boss calls me and says, I'm so sorry, but I need you to go over here. And he's like, she said, are you okay with that? I was like, hold on, looked it up. I was like, okay, it's a $5 million mansion. Okay, I'm going to go. I was like, that's fine. As I'm setting up my bar, there is a cornhole game. And on that cornhole game, there's like a picture of a house. And it has some letters. I look up these letters, don't know what it is. It was Stunning Homes Realty. And the guy who owned Stunning Homes Realty's name was Steve Trang. And it just so happens the guy who I was setting up the bar with and talking with was Steve Trang. And so I don't know any of the real estate talk, don't know the verbiage or anything. And I was like, so you're in real estate? And he was like, he giggled. And I was like, I lied. I said, I have my real estate license. He's like, oh, really? Who have you hung it with? And I was like, nobody yet. And he was just like, well, you kind of hit the jackpot because the largest investors, realtors, in the country will be here tonight. Wow. And I'm like, oh God, I don't know how to talk. But every single person that came up to my bar, I was like, so you're in real estate. Can I get your business card? Blah, blah, blah. But who was there? But you got Zach Ventures, you have Pace Morby, you have Jamil Damji, you have Templeton Walker, you have Isaiah, Elijah, you have every big name in real estate there. And I just hear them. Like I did my YouTube University where you look up and you hear about astro flipping and all this crazy stuff. I think it's the fakest thing in the world. But I'm sitting at that bar listening to every conversation around me. And you hear Jamil and Templeton saying, oh, I just flipped an 8 unit for $2 million. I just flipped this and got this. And I'm like, oh my God, I need to be a part of this. And it was Steve Trang's 40th birthday party. They do a toast. And that toast, I forget who was talking, if it was Paige Jamil, one of them, that said that none of us would be here if it wasn't for Steve Trang. And I was just like, oh my God. Steve Trang asked me to stay a little bit longer. I said, of course, anything, yes. By the end of the night, he asked me, you're not allowed to have a cell phone while you're at these bars. So he asked me if I had a cell phone. I said no. He was just like, okay, pen or paper. I write down Steve Trang's number. He told me to give him a call on Monday. And of course, like I said, I did lie. I didn't have my real estate license. I'm still waiting for my record to be set aside. So I don't call him on Monday. I actually end up losing that number. And 4 days later, my record gets set aside. I go downtown to see if I can get my real estate license, give him everything. She comes back within a minute and says, here's your real estate license. And I was like, really? And she was like, yeah, you didn't think you were going to get it? I was like, no, I knew I was going to get it. Just give it to me. I get my real estate license. I ended up finding his number. I call Steve Trang. I go that next Monday. I interview him. He interviews me. I ended up hanging my license with Stunning Homes. And, oh, God. So he was talking about he has this disruptors course coming in a couple of weeks. And we're broke. And his course cost $5,000 at that point. We took a loan out on a credit card, and we borrowed money from a family member, from my mother-in-law, and she gave us the money for me to go to this disruptors course. Mind you, I've never made a single cold call in my life, and there was people coming from all over the country to fine-tune their real estate wholesaling skills. I had no idea what it was. It was a fire hose to my face, but I took it all in, met all of these people, did all of these notes, and I tried to do the whole wholesaling thing. I did the text blast, the email blast, the cold calling. And I think while doing this, I think I found a deal. I was like, oh my God, this house is worth $800,000. They only want $600,000. It's a deal. Somebody within my brokerage told me to reach out to this guy, Zach Keeps. And I was like, okay, call Zach Keeps up. He says, send me the deal. I'll look at it. I send it to him. I'm still a server at this time. I go that night to serve tables. This guy walks through the door with a dozen white bouquet of roses. I'm like, why does he look familiar? What's going on here? I go back, look at my phone, and it's the guy who I just sent that deal to. It's Zach Keeps. He sat in somebody else's section, but I went to that server and paid him $20 to go wait on that guy. I waited on him, told him my situation. I said, I'm a realtor over here. I have a passion for sober livings, and this is what I want to do. And he was like, I'll think about it. It was his mom's birthday. I got to sing happy birthday to his mom. And by the end of that dinner, he said, meet me at this address with a cashier's check of this month, and I'll give you a chance and an opportunity. And next day, met him there, borrowed more money from the mother-in-law to get this house for my first sober living. And that was February of 2020. I got my first sober living. By August, I had 10 sober livings. And those were all Zach's houses that I was renting from him. I was doing a rental arbitrage where I'm renting from him and using it for a different use for a business. And so that grew really fast. And then I went in. Somebody was interested in doing a women's home. I had no interest in that, but I was willing to help her out. And she had worked in the industry. She wanted to do a women's sober living, and she wanted to do behavioral health. She wanted to do her own inpatient facility, and so did I. I was working towards that. We became business partners, and we created a massively successful business, helping a lot of people. And so that's where I'm at today. I have sober living homes. I have behavioral health homes. And I'm also the president and founder of a nonprofit that helps the chronically homeless get off of the streets. And I'm also building other businesses. So that's kind of where I'm at and kind of how I got there.
Wow. What a story, Patrick. That's amazing. Thank you for being open and honest and sharing that with us. And me just listening to that, it seemed like there was a lot of things that I mean, what are the odds of you going to this $5 million mansion with all these investors and just your boss called you and needed to make a switch? And then additionally, with Zach Keeps being at your restaurant on his mother's birthday, it really seems like, God was looking out for you there and really just aligned everything up. That was amazing. On that note, I would love to ask, with that amazing background, what do you think has contributed to your success the most?
It's determination, man, because again, I didn't have much of a childhood, and trying to fend for those drugs or whatever, I've pretty much been on my own all of that time. So I have a mind that if something comes into my mind, I'm determined and it's going to succeed. There's no doubt in my mind that it's going to succeed. I might run into some roadblocks, but that's all there is roadblocks, is my determination to want to succeed and wanting to do better and wanting to build up the people around me.
What do you think part of the drug use and that experience and that history, did that contribute to that determination?
It could. I went through a lot of crazy stuff in that drug use, but all the effort that I put towards getting that next high, getting that next drug, or to get that money or whatever it was, that determination, it takes a lot of freaking work. And I tell that to a lot of people that are getting sober right now. If you just put 10% of the effort that you took trying to get high and put it to good use, then you're going to be successful. It takes a lot of work to drive yourself down that far. So I appreciate where I came from because it built the person who I am today. But I also don't let my past determine my future, because again, high school dropout, 3-time felon, homeless multiples of times. I've never not got a job because of my past, and I've never let anything in my past stop me from what I want.
I love that. And I don't remember if you said this earlier, but what was the reason that you decided to get clean in the first place?
It got to a point when you stay up for multiples of days on drug use, you hallucinate, and I thought the world was out to get me. I thought everybody was out to kill me. I was homeless. All the people around me that I thought were really good friends stole everything from me. And it was just a constant grind of trying to live each day, not knowing the next time I was going to eat, not knowing the next time I was going to get a drug. And it came to a point I was just sick and tired of being sick and tired of all these people using me, trying to get over on me. And it just, looking at my life, it's just not a way I wanted to live anymore. And I didn't know what else was out there. I didn't know my options. So I'm glad that woman who gave me her number and saved my life that night, she was sober at the time. She had 5 years sober at the time. Mm-hmm. She recently relapsed, and she recently overdosed and passed away. And I dedicated. It was a hard one. I dedicated a house to her. It's a women's house, and it's now called the Nicole House, but I dedicated a house in her memory.
Wow. How do you think someone can start really recovering from an addiction and stop whatever the addiction may be, food, drugs, pornography, whatever that is? How do you recommend someone kind of get off of that?
So there's a negative content. There's a negative towards getting help. And what I mean by that, the reason why somebody overeats, the reason why somebody does drugs, the reason why somebody does, why they drink, or why they cover up something, there's something deep down inside of you. It could be childhood trauma. It could be depression. It could be there's a lot of things that it could be. And what they teach you in AA is to look at yourself and see what is going on. In AA, you have to believe in a power greater than yourself. You don't have to believe in God. You can believe whatever you would like, but you have to believe something greater than yourself can restore you to sanity. And then you look at all of the things that upset you, that made you mad, and what your part was in that. Why are you mad at this person? And all the people that did you wrong, why did they do you wrong? Maybe you didn't know what they were going through or what the purpose was. And then you try to clear up your past. You go back and apologize to those individuals that you hurt and to those individuals that hurt you for not knowing. So, and there's underlining things. I mean, there's a lot of people out there dealing with bipolar and they don't even know that they're bipolar or depression. There's a multiples of things, and there's a negative connotation to actually getting that help. And there is a reason deep down inside of us that we focus and do those things. So it's taking time to look at yourself, and don't think it's negative to go talk to a therapist, to have to take medication for something, and to take a deep dive into yourself. And that's why people do those things.
That's a great point. And I think it, like you said, it does go back to first starting with being sick and tired of being sick and tired. Like whatever it takes, I'm going to change. I'm like, exactly. It's so simple when you think about it. Just, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. And then for the listeners to kind of pull away from this is that you need to start asking, well, why do I feel this way? If I'm doing these things, why is that? And again, that stems from, I think, once you get sick and tired of being sick and tired and you're just going to decide to change, then that's the foundation that needs to be laid to really start making progress in the right direction.
And the time and effort you take to do some of those negative things, if you do it in something positive, people do get addicted to working out, but that's a positive. It's a positive thing. Focus on something positive outside of yourself. Go help a nonprofit. Go help somebody over here instead of doing some of those things. So it takes a lot of effort to constantly go down on yourself and constantly be in a depression. I just read a book. It's called The Power of Now, and it's very powerful. It's living in the moment and how to live in the moment. If your mind shifts a certain way, it brings you back to living in the moment, and that's when you're going to be your most happiest, is living in the moment and focusing on the positives.
I can relate to that myself, where I can be somewhat of a perfectionist, and I'll think of a conversation I had 3 days ago and think, well, what if I said this? Well, what if I say this? And like you just said, the book about living in the now, there's nothing that, sometimes you do need to reflect, and that's okay, but it gets to a point where you need to live in the now, In Matthew 6:25, it talks about, tomorrow has enough troubles and you can't change anything in the past. And so all you have right now is today. And so what are you going to do today? And hey guys, if you're enjoying the content of our podcast, but you have additional real estate investing questions, I'm happy to answer those questions for free. Head over to redseacapitalgroup.com and book an appointment with me. Not only am I the host of the show, but I am actively buying and already own properties across the U.S. So feel free to schedule a time that works best for you. Visit redseacapitalgroup.com to book your appointment today. So, Patrick, switching a little bit, you mentioned earlier that your mom would actually buy alcohol for you at your house and kind of wanted to make sure you were safe. She kind of knew that you were going to be doing these things, so she wanted to make sure you were safe in an environment with her. And that actually hit me hard, because I know people that their mothers and their children are drug addicts, and they're kind of allowing them to stay at home rent free, and it almost seems like some would say they might be enabling that, and there might be a different reason. But I'm curious about your perspective. Do you look back on that and see that as something that maybe contributed to your success, or would you have changed that if you could?
Ooh. So the reason, I think another reason why my mother did that, because if I wasn't at home, she knew I was going to be out in the streets doing some stupid stuff and end up in jail or prison. So she'd rather see me at home, and the only thing that was going to keep me at home is if you get me alcohol, make me stay here, type of thing. So it's a thing that, of course, your parents worry about you when you're out there doing what you're doing, knowing that you're on drugs. So she wanted to keep me at home. I don't know if it contributed to my success. Years later, I talked to somebody from my high school, a teacher from my high school, and he was like, "Oh, are you still drinking?" I was known as the alcoholic at my high school. So I don't know if it contributed to my success necessarily. But the whole enabling thing, if you are dealing with somebody that is in addiction, that is one of the number one causes of that's killing them right now. Not until my wife, she was an addict as well, and her parents enabled her. Not till they finally cut her off did she want to seek that help. If you have parents at home that are constantly giving you money, giving you a free place to stay, and giving you all of these things, why do I need to get better? Until you absolutely cut that person off, for them to reach their rock bottom is when they're actually going to seek that help. But if they don't have any bills, or if they're constantly getting money and you're just providing all these things from them, I mean, it's going to, why get sober? But also on the flip side of that, fentanyl is in everything right now, and it's the number one cause of death between 18 and 45-year-olds. It just became the number one cause of death. Right now, I'm actually in this. It's not because of drugs, but I'm in this suit right now. I'm going to a celebration of life today for a very good friend. It wasn't drug related, but he was also sober. But just this year, the past 3 weeks, I've known 5 people personally that have overdosed and died just this year. And people don't know what fentanyl is going to be in, and you enabling somebody, you giving money to somebody, and I mean, ultimately, you might have bought them that drug that killed themselves.
Wow. And that's a heavy thing to think about, to think, that's a really heavy thing to think about. And I would hope it makes, if someone's listening to this and that hits them, to maybe reconsider that, because I'm sure no one wants to do that, right? Say, hey, I'm going to give this person money. They're going to go buy this drug, and tomorrow they're going to die because of it. No one wants to do that. And there's, I think some people want to have good intentions, right? And so they want to help them in the pain of telling a loved one, no, I'm not going to do this for you, might seem heavy at first. But exactly like you said, Patrick, if the pain of losing them because of what you did would be worse. It would be worse. So, well, Patrick, I've really enjoyed this conversation today, and it's gave me a lot of insight, and it's, we've met in person, and I know Maryvale, and so it's kind of just interesting to hear your story and your history. So I really appreciate you sharing and being open to share your story with our listeners, and I really enjoyed it.
I appreciate you having me on. It's been a pleasure, man. I always share my story because, again, I don't want anybody's past to hinder them for what they can do in their future, man. And don't let nothing stop you, man. If I could do it, you can do it.
I love it. Well, Patrick, the final 3 questions. The first would be, if you can recommend a book to our listeners, what would that be?
I always recommend 2 books. Steve Trang, when I went with his brokerage, he did. I had got free coaching from him on Tuesdays, and he was trying to condition me. And one of the books he suggested was The Miracle Morning. If you win your morning, you win your day. And I was proud. I went in there and told him, I was just like, I'm waking up at 4:30 now. And he was just like, oh, that's cute. He said millionaires wake up at 4 and billionaires wake up at 3. Or so it's one of those things. I was like, oh, God. Oh, no, it was 5 and 4. And I started waking up at 4:30. But the other book that I live by, and I feel like a lot of entrepreneur books have this same principle, it's The Go-Giver. go out there and seek to give knowledge and to give information, not expecting anything in return, and your life is going to flourish. And I live by those principles. I pray every morning to have God show me how many people I can help today. And that's what I set out to do. And my life around me, my businesses around me, everything around me flourishes.
Those are great books. I love those books. I actually haven't read The Miracle Morning, but I agree and I can feel that, especially lately in my business. And if people want to learn more about you, maybe contribute to what you're doing, where's the best place for them to do that at?
Again, I'd love to collaborate with people. I am doing rental arbitrage. I have a rental arbitrage like Airbnb, sober livings, behavioral health homes, assisted living homes, group homes. I do all of those things, and I love to collaborate with people that have their heart in the right place, that want to do some of those things as well, give back to the community, and also make a good living with themselves. So if you're interested in that, you can reach me on all social media platforms at The Sober Investor, on Instagram, TikTok, all those things. DM me on Facebook, Patrick Legenzoff, and on The Sober Investor. But you can definitely reach out to me on all social media platforms. I'm out there. I'm helping a lot of people in a lot of other states right now. So even if you're in another state, I can help you accomplish what I'm doing out here in those other states.
And Patrick, if you could share one final thing with our listeners today that they can take away from the show, what would that be?
So I've already said it a couple of times, but guys, again, I was a drug addict, been homeless multiple times. I'm a high school dropout, a 3-time felon, and today I run, currently I have 10 successful businesses. 5 of those businesses do over 9 figures a year in each one of those businesses. And don't let your past stop you for what your future is going to be. You can start right now. You can hit a reset button and start exactly where you are right now and be successful. It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter what you've been through. It doesn't matter your past. It's about what you do with it from here on out. It doesn't matter your age or anything like that. Start right now. Let's freaking get on that mindset. Let's get in entrepreneurship. Let's freaking move forward and push back past those things.
I love it. Well, with that, we're gonna head out. But Patrick, thanks again for being here. I enjoyed it, and to the listeners, hope you all have a good day. Bye.
Love you guys, man. Stay blessed.
It's time to grab your victory. Find us on the web at redseacapitalgroup.com and follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Red Sea Capital Group.